So this is the story of how I looked in the mirror one day and was like, "Who is that?" I legit felt like I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. And why that happened, what happened after having my son, what happened leading up to that, how I felt about that, and the one thing that I did, the one action that I took that I kind of pushed myself to take that changed everything for me, changed my mindset around what I was seeing and what I was feeling, and allowed me to work on that. Right. And how me going through that journey affected my relationship, in the hopes that together we can share and discover and talk about and be in conversation about the fact that we change physically, our bodies change, and the reality is that that physical change creates changes in our minds. It creates changes in our hearts, how we feel about ourselves, how we relate to our partners, how comfortable we are with physical intimacy, because we aren't so comfortable with ourselves, right? With certain aspects of ourselves. And so this is part of that series that I just started yesterday. So I'm calling it a series, but we'll see where this goes, where I talked about chopping my hair off slowly, right? But what that meant, and how what that cut did to shift how I looked at just my face, how I looked at myself without distraction, kind of stripped down, right? And so this is a continuation of that, but a different story. So first and foremost, it's the first day of Ramadan, y'all. So please lean in with me. Let's have this be a comfort conversation, because I ain't gonna lie to you. First day of Ramadan is a shift for me. I'm fasting, and so my energy is is a little lower. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping that we can just have a comfort combo, and I'm leaned in a little bit more than usual on the camera, and I'm inviting you to do the same. So I had my son a few years ago. He's 3.5. And like I said, I was physically the biggest I'd ever been in my life. But there was a lot that led up to that, right? It wasn't just like, oh, pregnancy weight and all of that. But the highlights of what led up to this moment in the mirror for me, like I remember getting up and looking in the mirror and knowing it's me, but just physically not recognizing the woman that was looking back at me. Like recognizing some of my features, but feeling like they were kind of concaved in my face, just looking different. And having some levels of discomfort with that. And this is from someone, I like looking at myself in the mirror. I like looking in the mirror. Say what you want to say about it. I do. I did not at that moment, because I was like, oh. And when I looked in the mirror, it's more out of curiosity of like, okay, what's going on here? What's happening here? And so, right before I knew I was pregnant with my son, I don't know if I say right before, but before I knew that I was pregnant with my son, I one day I dropped everything and I had to go to North Carolina because my mom had a stroke. Now, that whole thing is a story in and of itself, but just to share how it relates to this, I left that same night with like a backpack with my family, and we were there for 6, 7 months in North Carolina until she passed. And during that time, I was doing a lot of emotional eating. I was doing a lot of grief eating. I was mostly eating the things that brought me comfort, which is lots of carbs for me, lots of French fries, lots of potatoes, mashed, home fried, fricasseed, whatever. Lots of like loaded fries, lots of bread. I'm still plant based, but you can choose a lot of processed food plant based, and that is exactly what I was doing. I was eating a lot of processed sweets. I particularly like this little vegan cheesecake that I can get from the grocery stores, and I would eat that whole thing by myself. Okay, um, vegan pizzas, vegan cheesy bread, just like, and it isn't like I wasn't getting a vegetable in. Okay, but I was eating a lot of this food that I wasn't normally eating. my plant-based journey had been one that I was pretty steady in what I was eating, not a lot of refined sugars, and looking at all the ingredients, making sure it wasn't a full paragraph, like cooking a lot at home. Like that was my flow. And I didn't have a lot of fluctuation for like 8, 9 years. And then here I am in this time of grief, and about, I would say about 25, 30 pounds the girl put on at that time. And I was like, okay, when I get home, I'm gonna get it together. I'm gonna get back into my eating regimen. I'm gonna, add some exercise in. This is what I told myself. I geared up to do that when I did get home after the 6, 7 months, and nothing was changing. I was like, I was like, in fact, I was feeling like worse. I was feeling like sick and like, I was like, what is going on? Turns out, she, me, her, I was with child. Super excited to be with child. And there was a lot of other stuff going on emotionally. My mom had just passed. The year prior to that, I had had a miscarriage. And so that kind of carried some weight and with some spaciousness in my mental, in my brain, in my head, that I had really had to work on my mindset during the pregnancy to not worry and to not be anxious or to not remain in a state of worry or anxiety, right? Because it comes up, and have certain, I don't want to say uh, coping techniques, but for lack of a better term, in place for me that would bring me out and bring me through those moments. So I was dealing with a lot of that, and I was like, well, I guess I'm not about to get fit. I'm about to be pregnant. I mean, I could have a fit pregnancy, but in my mind, I was like, I knew I had gained. I knew that for me, that didn't feel. I felt it on my body. Didn't feel uh, good. It didn't feel like wellness. And so I was like, I know I need to lose. I know I need to lose some of this fat that I have gained because of the way that I was eating. But I wasn't really gonna, like, not in the way that I had envisioned. Now I'm pregnant, and I'm like, okay. And I gained about 40 pounds with the pregnancy. So you do the math, how much, collectively I was really putting on in this time frame. And please, before people come for me, I was seeing, my midwife. It was not an unhealthy way. I gained 40 pounds with Sovereign too. Maybe that's just my thing. I gained 40 pounds with the pregnancies. But with Sovereign, I was at a very different starting point. I was younger, it was a whole thing. So, I did gain with him. He was a 9 pound baby. Okay. And, I had him. I had him, and you do the things that you do when you have a newborn. You work to heal, you work to take care of yourself, and you work to take care of this newborn child that is dependent on you. You're pumping, you're nursing, you're changing diapers, trying to get some rest in between. You're eating to fuel up so that you can pump and nurse and do the things. And I was doing all of that. And yet, this is the moment, this was my mirror moment when I was like, who is this person? I did not feel good for many reasons. And yet, I have a responsibility to this baby and to my daughter. And you suck it up and do what you got to do. So I was talking to a girlfriend because, they check up on you. You just had a baby. Friends are checking up. I was like, yeah, I'm good. And da 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 da. You need anything? Somewhere in the conversation, I was like, yeah. And I was supposed to go to this place. I didn't go because really we're just going to the pediatrician. I'm mostly home, and I can't fit anything in my closet anyway. And in just a loving way, they're like, girl, please, type of thing. Like, that can't be true. I think you're exaggerating, right? But in a nice way. She said it not in the way I just said it. And I was like, no, no, for real. Like, for reference, if I was, I mean, sizes to me are all relative. But if I was a 6 to 8 at that point beforehand, and I had mostly mediums, if I wanted something a little bit more baggy, roomy, I had some larges. They did not fit me. I didn't even know what size I was at this point or what would fit me. I know that if it didn't have spandex or a drawstring, I wasn't getting it on. It wasn't fitting me. And so what was I doing? Can you guess what I was doing? I was going in the closet right next to my closet, the his and hers closet. I was going to the his side and getting his sweatpants and his sweatshirts because those are the only things I really felt comfortable in the house. And I would try to mix and match some of that with some of my maternity clothes that could fit me. But maternity pants are weird, right? It's like it's meant for the belly. So if you don't have that, it's hard for to keep, even though I was still bigger, I didn't have the protruding in that sense. So it just they would fall down as I walked throughout the day. They would slip and fall. But a lot of the tops I can wear, and I can wear that with some of my husband's sweatpants. I was piecing it together, okay? And at the time, I was in this group of entrepreneurs. We were in a support group, and we were tasked with a challenge to do something every day. We had a challenge. And this particular day, the challenge was around, oh no, did my computer just, okay. Uh, whole bunch of technical difficulty. Okay, technology don't want you to be great sometimes. So I was in this group and we're tasked with these challenges. And one day the challenge was to do something that we are really uncomfortable doing. Do one thing for ourselves that would kind of push us. We would like to do it. We used to like to do something we enjoyed, but it would push us. And I was like, okay. And one thing that I enjoyed was going thrifting for clothes. I like to go thrifting. So I was like, okay, I'd already decided this was gonna suck because I didn't know what size I was. I'm gonna have to try on clothes. Like that's, if you know, you know. It's just not the best, the most comfortable, the most encouraging experience. And still, I was like, I'm gonna rise to this challenge. Just take a picture of yourself doing this challenge. And so I went thrifting. And I remember I was wearing at the time some maternity jeans and a maternity top, and the maternity top was still a little snugger, more snug than I would like, but I wore it anyway. It was a kind of a pretty color. I was going out into the world again. And I went to this thrift store and I tried some clothes on. I kind of guessed maybe where I was, maybe a 10, 11, somewhere in a 10, 12 mark. And I would just get things in several different sizes. So I didn't have to keep coming out around that range. And I tried them on. And there were things that really did not fit or look good or I felt comfortable in, but there were also some things that I did. And I left that store probably about 7 things that I could mix and match with some maternity stuff and, maybe with 1 or 2 of my husband's t-shirts, but that I felt good in. That was the shift for me. Here's the thing. We have a tendency to be stuck, to remain stuck and to hold on to our stuckness. We have a tendency to say, "Hey, it's gonna suck to go thrifting and try to get clothes that fit me right now. I'm not gonna do that." Or, you know what? I don't even know what size I am. It's gonna be a horrible experience. So I'm probably not gonna find my size. Like we will talk ourselves out of it. And then we would just stay stuck. We'll just hold on to our stuckness because we're like, well, I'm still feeling the same way about how I'm looking, but I'm also not doing anything about it. And I've expertly justified not doing anything about it, right? By talking myself out of it, the talk that we'll have. But this was a push. I made a commitment and I made it publicly. And so I did it. And that was a shift for me. That's when it changed. Sometimes that's all we need. All we need is one shift, one change, one small action that we can take that will be the catalyst to us feeling better about ourselves in the moment. Not the whole like when I look like this, when I feel like I have more stamina, more endurance, when I feel like I can fit in my clothes in my closet again, then I'll feel better. Then I'll go out more. Then I'll see my friends. All the things that would make us feel better, ironically, are on the other side of this thing that we feel is an obstacle. But sometimes it just takes the one thing for us to shift. That was my one thing. Because when I put on the clothes that fit my body at the moment and did not belong to my husband, I felt better. Was I where I wanted to be? No. I definitely had things I wanted to improve on. I wanted to take the reins and have some autonomy over my wellness again, right? And I knew, like, full on wellness. I was dealing with grief, I was dealing with postpartum, I had a newborn, like there were a lot of things happening, right? Those are just some of the highlights. There were other things happening in this season. And I was like, I had this one thing, and that became the catalyst. Because now when I looked in the mirror in that dressing room, I saw someone that's wearing like regular clothes and they fit. I'm like, okay, I can rock this. The shift for me up here and in here was, now I feel like I can be comfortable where I am right now as I'm becoming, as I'm working on my full on wellness. I can accept where I am right now. It was difficult because I still was like, it's me, but also not me, but it's me. It's me, just heavier. And yo, I'm here through all the grief, through the loss, through the birth, through postpartum. My body is still with me. My body is still functioning. My body just gave birth to a 9-pound baby at home. Okay. And I am here. And after grieving someone who is no longer here, that has more weight, and it had more weight for me then. I'm here. Okay. And we have that our tendency often as human beings is to look to the future of what we would like and how we want it to be, and that becomes the destination, becomes the everything, and we're not even paying attention to not just the journey, because I'm like, pay attention to the journey. I got it. True facts. And also pay attention to the present. Be where your feet are right now. And right now, this is where your feet are in this body. You can go on not accepting that and feeling bummed about it, or you can do something about it. And I did. And for my relationship with my husband, feeling more comfortable in my body, going out with him, and he was always still all the things, okay, but it was still about how I felt about myself, right, first and foremost, and that informed my comfort or discomfort with physical intimacy with him. I had to start here. But that one moment, that catalyst is what you need. Like, what's your catalyst? What was your catalyst in a moment for you that feels similar to mine? And what right now maybe needs to be your catalyst? If you're in a situation of like, I'm not happy with where I am or how I'm looking right now, etc. I want to feel healthier. I want to feel better in my body. And that's not just connected to weight. That's just one factor. Then what's one low hanging fruit that I can grab onto in this moment? That's what I did. The thrifting to find 7 items that fit my body was my low hanging fruit. It was my catalyst. And then guess what? After that, I made another decision, because once I made the one decision and I could feel the difference, like pretty immediately, I could make another decision, which was, I'm going to walk every day for 30 days. That was a commitment that I made to myself. And I did that. And I was so committed that my family rallied around me. My mother-in-law who lived with me at the time, and my daughter and Austin were like, yeah, this is mommy's walking time. And I would walk every day for 30 days, rain, shine, cycle, 18 degrees. And I chronicled like what the weather was, how I was feeling, tired, 88 degrees, right? Like, I walked my neighborhood for at least 20 to 30 minutes every day, non negotiable, for 30 days. And then I did it for another 30 days. And what was therapeutic about this is I started out doing it just so that I could get movement in my body and feel better about my body, but it turned out to be very healing. I would cry sometimes on those walks from the grief. It would be meditative. Sometimes if I had music in my ear, I would be walking, a little bit of a dance break would happen. And it reminded me of how my mom loved to dance and go to Zumba. It was healing. Walking, just walking my neighborhood. I didn't get in my car. I didn't go to a fancy trail. There's plenty of trails in Atlanta. I just walked my neighborhood every day for 30 days and then did it for another 30 days and then did it for another 30 days. That commitment to that, it my body naturally changed. My endurance got better. I started like running, like a little run in between, little jog, little pep in my step. Running? I didn't even run before. Okay? Jog before. Right? So that's why I'm telling you this, because it's a complete wellness journey. So it was healing, and I could feel my stamina and my endurance be better. I was having heart palpitations a little bit after having Zen. I could feel those go away. Like, just, I could feel what it felt like to feel well, in mentally, emotionally, and physically. It was very healing for me to do that and to stay in that commitment to myself. We often make things so much bigger than they are. Former overthinker, I get it. But then you're like, okay, I was overthinking, and now I got to do something. Let me take some action. Let me make a plan. And like, we don't really need a plan. Sometimes you just need one thing, one action that you can take today or tomorrow. For me, like I said, it was a thrifting, and then that led to the action of the commitment of daily walking, and that led to opened up so much for me emotionally and physically. By the time I got to that second round of 30 days, I had gotten almost back to the weight that I was, uh like, after all the emotional eating, but before the pregnancy. I'd gotten back to that space. But like I said, it wasn't just about the weight, because now I had endurance and I had stamina that I hadn't experienced before. And so that became a note to self. Okay, you got this. You can do this. You can feeling like you're feeling your feelings and feel a little funky about something, and then you can take one action and you can make one commitment, and things can shift for you. I mean, look at this. I'm committed to 100 days of daily posting on here. I'm like, something will shift because I'm showing up for myself and for you, but first and foremost for myself. The commitment that I made to myself. That's what that moment was. And it so this is a reminder of how we always have to work through the things that we're dealing with ourselves too. How can we accept where we are even while we're still improving? How can we feel comfortable where we are right now even when we're still going? I'll share this. I have my husband's cousin, so my cousin, right? She wasn't happy with how, like, her kitchen was looking. She wanted to do some renovations and stuff like that. The renovations that she wanted to do were like HGTV style renovations, which I get. Okay, if you couple videos ago, I told you about my obsession with HGTV at some point. And I was like, okay, cool, cool. But you're feeling really like, ugh, every time you go into the kitchen and you love to cook. I said, what can we do right now? What action can we take right now that's going to make the kitchen feel better for you? We went shopping, went to IKEA. We got something to a storage, like a little baker storage thing to put in there. We measured, put the stuff that was kind of taking up a lot of room and making the kitchen feel a little bit more cluttered, move that stuff out of the way, organize some things. And she was like, oh, there was instantly more space in the kitchen. Instantly, just an exhale and a relief. Instantly, like, this one action. It's not what I wanted. It's not the full renovation that I have in mind, but it's a first step, and it makes your day to day feel better. Me getting those clothes made my day to day feel better. Made trips to, the pediatrician's office not looking like a bum made me feel a little better. Not wearing, my husband's clothes made me feel a little better. I wasn't where I wanted to be, but it still helped. And so, what's the one thing? What's that going to be, that catalyst? What's going to be that shift? It is something that empowers me as an individual, and it also informs my relationship. I was asking myself, what do I need to work on? Anything that I work on is going to come through me and is going to help elevate and strengthen my relationship with my husband. We can't forget that part. We're quick to be like, and you need to change this, and you need to do this, and if you would just, okay, can't control them. So if you ask yourself, what do I want to improve? Not just for them, but for you. What do I want to improve for me? Because that's going to shine through me, and something is going to shift with me and within the relationship. So, yeah, that's what I have for today. And just wanted to share that with you in the hopes that something resonates. Perhaps it's someone who needed to hear this today. And if you did, let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear that. I would love to know your thoughts and your experiences as much as you're comfortable sharing down below in the comments, and we can keep the conversation going in there. For those of you who already are in a space of, I want to strengthen communication and connection and intimacy in my relationship, which includes self, right, then I will meet you in the description. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. And hey, we're here talking about the ways in which we can feel good in and of ourselves and have relationships that feel good because of it. And while we're doing that, simultaneously, both of those things can happen. And that's what we're here talking about. Hopefully, these conversations are a reminder and a motivation and a sense of empowerment to be in that space. So if that is your vibe, okay, then please subscribe. And I will see you on the other side. Thank you for watching, for listening. Thank you if you're returning. Thank you if this is your first time and you made it all the way here, okay, to the end. I appreciate you. And I'm going to see you on the flip side, aka tomorrow.